Hi there, this is Dawn. Welcome to my art room and welcome to my YouTube channel. It's lovely to have you join me, and today I've been working on a pouch for a gift for a friend, and I wanted it to be a fairly quick project because I've left it till a bit late, but I really wanted to make one of these really box pouches. And the way that I wanted to tackle it was to be a way of thinking about colour inspiration. I've used free motion machine embroidery to put all my patches together. You could choose to do this by hand quite easily. And I've also used a zip that I bought when I was in Queensland, actually, which is a continuous zip. So you buy the zip by the metre, you buy the zip pulls separately, and then you can create whatever size zip you want. And I've lined it, and it's all done by machine, like I said, but you could do it by hand if you wanted to. My colour inspiration was from a book that I purchased some time ago that I'll talk about, and it talks about how to put together colour combinations, and this one's based on vintage fabrics. So you'll see me work on this. I've added a little extra hand embroidered little house from one of my collections. If you haven't seen other videos of mine, you might like to tune in. But this was just a different pouch that I followed, researched, saw a couple of people on YouTube doing it and wanted to have a go at it myself, but creating my own collage of fabrics. Cool. I hope you enjoy it. It's a bit stop and start, but I just wanted to show you the processes, including some of how I machine stitch. Hope you enjoy this. Bye for now. Cool. So you would have seen the finished product, but this is now how I got there. The first thing that I want to talk about is thinking about what colours might go together, because as you will have seen, I've made this entirely out of scrap, and you can put it, just pick out another bit and it might look all right, but I think if you want it to have a bit of a cohesive look, it's good to put a little bit of thought into it. And that's that's my preference. You don't have to, you could just do it however you want. But I purchased this book quite some time ago. The lady is Simone Linehan, and she does these colour inspiration books. This is her. It wasn't a horrible price. I can't remember where I got it from. Probably Amazon or somewhere. Yep, Simone Linehan is the artist. It doesn't give you any more detail than that. I don't think I bought it directly from her. I think I got it probably Amazon or somewhere. Can't remember. Saw it maybe advertised and yep, just decided that that's what I wanted. And so this is a colourway, colour inspiration based on a piece of vintage fabrics. And what she's done is looked at the piece of fabric and taken the colours out of it, put them in separately, and so it just takes the hard work out of it. This, whoever designed this piece of fabric was paid it as a designer. Their fabric works because the colours work together, and that's often what's so appealing about them, is the mix of colour. And if it's sometimes too much, then you can't see a particular colour, but when they all work together, you can see the red, you can see the green, you can see the yellow, you can see the black. If they're muddled, sometimes you don't see all of those colours. But anyway, so I went for this colourway. As I said, this is going to be a gift, and I think this is something that she probably likes as a colour range, and that's how I've started it. And so what I've been doing is rummaging through my scrap basket, which is probably too big to show you, but it looks something like that. All right. My granddaughter loves it because she's allowed to rummage in there. And I've started looking at fabrics that I think might go together and work in this colourway. So yeah, so that's sort of where I'm headed. This bit I'm debating about. It's because of the yellow, and it doesn't. But that orangey colour is definitely there. And so I need to probably find some more orange. This was just a little piece, but it's all those colours. And, you know, they work together too. Whether I, you know, probably chop it up. Yeah. You'll know what I'll have done because I've done it by the time you see it. So, yeah, so all I'm doing is rummaging through this ridiculous basket of scrap till I find pieces that I think match in a colourway. And so, yeah, that's all I'm doing. So I'm going to keep doing that. What I need to do is find enough pieces of fabric to cover that whole piece of calico that I've used for, you know, for the base fabric. Cool. I think this is more a purple blue, and that might be the one thing that I struggle with because it's probably not a colour I tend to use. But anyway, we'll keep scrounging around in here. I found another. Don't think they're it, but they could be it. They could be part of it. Cool. All right, I'm gonna keep playing with this. Oh, there's that blue is almost in there. All right, now I know what I'm looking for. It could be in some of my, and I might have to add, you know, cut up some bits of normal fabric. Normal, you know, fabric that's not in my scrap box, but it's in the right colourway. And really all I'm doing here is trying to use up what I've got and create my own piece of fabric from it. Naturally, even though I've done it by machine for time's sake, you know, it can be done by hand. You can stitch it by hand. I was in a bit of a hurry, and so I wanted it to be quicker. No. All right, I'm going to keep working on that, and I'll come back to you when I've gathered my supplies. One of the other things that I wanted to show you that I used was the zip that's by the yard or by the metre. I think, you know, when you research it. I bought this when we went to Queensland at the Howard Drapery. They had it, and I've decided to use this as part of the zipper. But I just thought I'd show you how to make it work. So the zipper has got this rounded bit here with a metal piece and open at this end. Oh, every time I put the video on, somebody walks up the driveway. So you put it... Oh, it's actually a delivery. I'll be straight. Sorry. Okay, sorted. Organising zip. So this is a number 5 zipper. This is the zipper pull for a number 5. So that's the important part, that when you're buying them separately. So in order to make it work, you've got to thread either side onto the zipper pull with that rounded bit facing towards the teeth and the flat underside underneath. Okie doke. Thread it through as evenly as you can. Just a little bit fiddly, but just for a minute. What you don't want is for it to go through unevenly, and that's as simple as it goes. So what we're doing is, hopefully you saw it. Oh my God, didn't need to do it again. All right. There's a gadget. There's some sort of gadget that you can buy. I've seen them Temu or somewhere. And, you know, by the time you jump through all the blooming hurdles to try and order one jolly thing, then I lose interest and I can't be bothered. That you can put this thing in and it'll help you to thread it. Needle, zipper, pull, threader tool, something like that. I don't know. You'd have to look it up. It's with all the rest of, you know, the zipper by the meter or zipper by the yard, however they do it. Again, lots of places have it, including Temu, but you can probably get it on Amazon. As I said, I bought this from a draper's, Howard Drapery, but I've seen it in other, like, patchwork type shops. Cool. All right. I've cut my piece of fabric. It is 14.5 inches along this way and 10.5 inches this way. That's 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, which I'm going to mark with a ruler simply because I don't want the stitching that I'm going to do, the embellishment, to go into the seam. It's too bulky, and, you know, there might be little bits that do it, but I don't want it to be like that. So I'm going to mark the seam allowance, and I'm going to avoid putting fabrics. That certainly looked bigger than it, 1/4 of an inch, didn't it? That end. Just the way the fabric goes, I think. So I'm going to mark it with this. As we iron and do all sorts of funny things, it'll come off. And then what I'm also going to do is mark the corners that are going to make the box. Cool. All right, I'm going to do that all the way around. I'll just do it on this one, and then I'm not going to do it on the other side yet. In front with you, I'll do it, but I won't do it with you. That's all. And as yet, I haven't picked the lining fabric. I've just got to find something in my stash. I've just really just simply started doing this and realised that it was probably going to be better to do it a bit back to front, in that you see the finished thing first. But I want this done today. And so hence my decision to machine embroider it with free motion machine embroidery. Yeah, I've got a bit interested in it again. I used to do it a lot and haven't done it. Got really interested in hand stitching. Still love hand stitching. Won't stop doing that ever. But for something that, and I've always made presents for people. You know, it's just been the thing that I've done. And when you suddenly go, oh my gosh, I need this very soon, it's a problem. All right, so the box, the corner is going to be 2 1/4 inch square, 2 1/4 inch square. Cool. If I do it, 2 1/4, Oh, that's funny. I didn't do that right. Did I do that right? Why didn't I do that right? Why did I do it the wrong way? All right, cool. It's 2 1/4 inch square, all right? Just, I'm using all of the markings on here to help with that situation. And I'm not going to have my fabrics go over there because that'll get cut out. So that's the importance of that 2 1/4 inch square. This way, 2 1/4. Cool. And so in actual fact, if you were to measure it, it's more like to the edge of the fabric this way, nearly, nearly 2.5 inches and 2.5 inches, that's taking into account that 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just simply going to add fabric wherever I feel like it. I might rip it up. I might do whatever I'm going to do with it. But what I'm not going to do is go over that there, all right? I'm going to go to here and to here, making sure that I'm stitching down the edges with the machine when I do the freestyle machine embroidery. And I'm going to just keep on working on it and come back to you when I've actually got it pinned before I stitch it. I'll show you a little bit of the freestyle machine embroidery, but again, it could be done by hand. Okay, I'll be back very soon. Okay, so I'm back with my colour selection, which took a little bit longer than I might have thought it was going to, simply because I had to go looking, strangely enough, for this colour and definitely for these 2 colours. So there we go. You know, when you say you're going to do something, be thinking about what it is that you need to do it. So, but anyway, I think I've found a pretty good selection of bits and pieces to start putting together. My next thing was about the threads that I was going to use, and just bring this in so you can see. I think this, not this colour, this one, sort of a linen colour. So I've actually decided to do a little embroidery on this linen, which is a leftover from my little houses. And the mustard was a colour that I didn't have a lot of fabric for, so I went looking for a thread to do the actual free motion machine embroidery, because, like I said, I actually didn't have a lot of that colour. So I thought, rather than, I could have done it in this linen colour, and I've thought about it. And maybe I'll do some in the linen and some in that mustard colour. The only one that's bugging me is this one, but it's the exact same blue, but it's got this white background. And I don't even think tea dyeing it's going to fix that problem. In saying that, I probably should go and have a try, shouldn't I? I quite like that little pop of orange in there, but I'm not sure whether that'll make an appearance. So now it's just up to me to rip these all up and get them attached to here. And I think it's just going to be, oh yeah, I found this trim that I dyed, which is in that right colourway. Accidental happiness. Oh, and I found a piece of fabric that I'd stamped, and that's the right colour. It's what I would call Prussian blue, although it's more purple. it is more purple than blue, so that colour might not even be right, and neither, although this one is that more purpley blue colour. Oh, I don't know, I'm just going to see how we go. Cool. All right, so for the next few minutes, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start just picking up something randomly and putting it on the piece, remembering not to go over over the seam allowances. I'm going to cut this because this is the only piece I've got of this that I could find anyway, in my scrap basket. I don't know that I made a huge difference on my scrap basket, but I'm going to keep that one for the other piece. And really, no rhyme nor reason, just whatever comes out of the pile next is going to be what I put on. I probably don't want things to, you know, just go in straight lines. That's not what how I've envisaged the look. This one was, you know, I deliberated over this one because but I think it's right, so I'm going to use it. I'm going to rip it here, only because I just sort of fancied a slightly bigger piece, but I think if I just tuck that in there, you won't know that it's not whole. Remembering to make sure that there's overlap, hand stitching or machine stitching, it doesn't matter which one it is, and they all need it. I kind of like this background colour, but I'm not sure about that other colour in there. That one might not come in yet. All right, here's this one. Did I have 2 bits of this? Oh yeah, I did have 2 bits of this. Good. Now, another thing to think about is sort of about that much of it is the bottom. So that's the top on either side, and that's the bottom. And so, no, wait on. No, is it? Yes. There's a back and a front. Yes, what am I talking about? Okay. I have to think about that one. I might want to hide the rick-racky lines, but I'm worrying that I won't have enough. All right, so this one can be ripped. This is like a silk, very pretty. Let's get rid of that. Yeah, no, it will rip one way and not the other. All right, well, look, I think you can see what I'm doing, and I'll come back when I've done both. I'm going to pin them all down, and then my plan is to machine, but it's definitely something that you could do by hand with sort of like, you know, a running stitch. Cool. All right, be back soon. Okay, so I've stitched one side of it. I'm just wondering how high I need to have you on the machine. Used that mustard colour, and I just do random stitching all over. This is one side. I'll do a little bit of stitching on the other side. Sorry, turned away from the microphone. I'll do a little bit of stitching on this side to show you. And, you know, you can certainly do this by hand. You could just do some running stitch around all of these. You could do running stitch right across the whole piece. I'm just interested in doing this free motion embroidery at the moment, and so that's why I'm doing it. Because it's a quilting method, I've got some wadding behind just to give it some bulk, and it's going to be a purse, you know, a pouch thing. So I want it to have some bit of strength. So with free motion embroidery, you need to have what's called a darning foot, and this one looks like this. It's got this spring-loaded action that helps when you're stitching for you to go backwards, forwards, roundabout, whichever way. It's important to lower the feed dogs, because the feed dogs are these things in here, those little teeth. They will be the things that stop you from being able to move your fabric backwards and forwards. And I just have my stitch set at a 0 length, so my stitch isn't trying to fight against me. This is an older machine, and I quite like it because it's not trying to auto-correct me all the time, which the more modern computerized machines do. So anyway, this is just how I do it, and because I'm doing this random stitching, I'm, you know, not really worrying about where I'm going. I want to go and catch this bit of lace down, and you'll see that the foot is pushing it up, and that's just because it's got a bit of extra bulk attached to it. What I don't want is you know, for it to turn over and create a fold. So slowly goes it. You can go as fast or as slow as you want. I'm not following any particular rule here. I'm just doing however I feel like I need to do it. But you'll see with that foot that you can go in whichever direction you want, and it doesn't take a lot of pressure. I'm just going to get rid of that pin. You know, it doesn't take much to move the fabric. I'm just really guiding it. But you'll see if I don't do it, it just stays in the one position. It doesn't move around. I do need to be the guide to make the fabric move. So as you can see, you can have your foot press a foot down as fast as you like, but unless you move the fabric, it won't go anywhere. You'll just get a whole lot of little stitches instead of slightly longer ones. That's all. Cool. All right. I'll come back when I've done it. Cool. All right. So I've stitched the front and the backs together. I did make one mistake. I had marked out these corners for the 4 corners, and I didn't need to do that because the zipper goes here, silly me. It's the bottom corners that need to be cut. So I just went and found a fabric that I cut into those 4 corners and added them. The other piece that I'm going to do is just a zipper pull, so that, you know, when you're, you know, trying to zip the zip, you've got something to hang on to. So this was just a piece of fabric that I cut It's about 2 1/4 inches wide and 1, 2, 3, 4, nearly 5 inches long. It doesn't matter because I'm going to cut it. And folded in the 2 edges, folded it in half, and I'm going to top stitch it down here and down here, and then I'm going to add the zip. I'll come back and show you that little bit in a minute. I'm trying to decide whether I'm going to film putting the zipper in. I've already cut out the linings. I've decided I had enough of this fabric. I found a bit more and had enough for a lining, so that's going to happen. And I've cut out one of my little houses that I've already pre-embroidered. I folded in the edges because what I'm going to do isn't like needle turn applique it onto the front. It's got different colours, but I think it's going to work. Cool. All right, I'm going to go and do this little bit and get myself set up. I might put one side of the zipper in and then I'll come back and film putting in the second side. Okay, back in a sec. Okay, well, I'm going to try this. My camera is on a very weird angle, but I'm hoping that I can get the chance to show you what I'm doing to sew a zip in. Not as hard as you might think. So I've sewn in one side and now I'm going to sew in the other side. So I've sewn, the zip has to go to the right side of the your top fabric, and with your lining, the right side facing the top fabric. So the other side works the same way. Just make sure that if you've got a fabric where you've decided on, a top, and I've decided that this is my top, you want to make sure that you've got that in the right spot. So the zip now, let me see, you can see the zip goes beyond the width of the fabric, just, and an inch or something, not very far. Putting the right side of the fabric to the zip and the right side of the lining to the zip. Okay. Making sure that you line up these edges. So they're the other important part of your measurements to be doing, so that the fabric lines up. There. Okay. Same with the lining. So all of those edges there all line up. Pinning through all the layers. So what you want to make sure is that the top of the zip is at the top of the fabric, at the top of the lining. I've got the camera in front of my nose. I'm having to keep twisting myself around so I can see what I'm doing here. It's a very funny angle to do. All right, continue going all the way along, matching up all of your edges. Zip, lining and top fabric. I think I've just cut my lining a little bit wider, and that will have happened, should have rechecked that, after the quilting, because the top fabric will have shrunk a little. Why won't that go through there? Just doesn't want to. Just doesn't want to. There. So what I'm trying to do is pin. Oh, no, you can't see, pin from one side of the teeth to the other. Tricky. This is the trickiest bit really, but not hard to do. Matching all the way. I could put you on fast forward, I would, but I don't know how to. Cool. All right. So the important thing is to get your edges to match. So I'm going to put you on hold because this is too tricky for me to do while I'm trying to talk. As soon as I've got this pinned, I'll come back and show you my next. Okay, sorry, that was a bit painful, but the issue was that it was right up against my nose in front of my, the camera was in front of my face and I couldn't see what I was doing. And I ditched the pins and went for the clips. So just again, making sure that you've matched all of the edges. So the edge of your fabric, the lining, the edge of the zip, and the edge of your top fabric all match. And so I've got a zipper foot on my machine, which means it's got, I'll just show you up close. It's got a marking on this side and on this side, and I can move my needle from the centre point over to this side here, which allows me to get right up against the fabric. And what I've done is worked out that I've got a marking on here that I can follow. That's where I want to stitch, so I can keep the edge of my fabric there. I've marked it there so I know where I'm going, and then I just stitch along. Now the thing that I need to be aware of, and I've got it hanging out, is where the zipper pull is. So just making sure that I keep that fabric in there. Tricky when I'm trying to film. Never done this before. So just trek along. I can feel the zip in here where I'm going, and I've got a mark on the side. Now when I get to this bit, put your needle down in it, and then from the inside grab that zipper pull and pull it so that it's gone down, so it's now beyond there. Okay, sorry you can't see that, but that will keep it out of the way. Make sure my zip is lined up. Sometimes when there's a bit of bulk, everything moves at a different rate. Cool. All right. Back on track. Keeping my edge on this mark here, so I know that I'm catching everything in. I can feel the zip in here with my finger. I'm using my other machine just because it's, and I'll just back it up a little bit. Cool. All right. Put you on hold and take you back over to the normal space. Good. Right. Now, I just wanted to show you putting the zipper in, because many people seem to be nervous about that. So what I did before was I just moved this up and down so that this part was out of my way. What I'm going to do now, fold the lining and the fabric against each other. Okay, I'm going to press it and I'm going to top stitch it just to give it a nice neat finish. But that's how easily the zip went in with a zipper foot. Cool. All right. When I've completed that bit, I'll come back. The other thing that I did was I top stitched those little bits cut it in half. Now I'm going to fold it in half, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to be stitching it across the edge there, so that when you're you're pulling the zipper up and down, you've got something to hang on to, and that's really all it is. But first I'm going to top stitch this so that it sits nice and neatly on there, which will hold the lining in as well. And I'll be back. All right, hang in there with me. Okay, I've done my top stitching. You can see it here. I've started to construct the rest of the pouch. And then now there's a blooper, because, when I first started talking about how I went about constructing this, I said, leave these corners without fabric because we're going to cut them away. Well, we're not. We're cutting these corners up here. So, sorry, I will put a note. Oh, hopefully you'll have seen it by now. So what I've done on the wrong side, I've stitched the front covers together, right sides facing, and now I'm going to do the same with the lining fabric. So my apologies for anybody that might have got a bit of frustration going, because I've had to add those extra squares, but that's okay because I had, little bits of extra fabric, and oh well, the corners are the same, matching, but you won't be up against each other, so they'll be all right. Cool. Once you've stitched the lining together, press it, and then what we're going to do is we're going to open it here in line with the zip so that it goes like that. The same thing on this side, again with that center where your join is in line with the zip. And once I've got to that point, I'll have these layers here. The zip is in the middle. I'll come back. The zip was a bit tricky to stitch over, to put the little tab in. This is a metal zip and quite dense, and so it's just slow. Go slow. I fed it through by hand. All of this top stitching, putting zips in, putting tabs in, doing all of these, all can be done by hand. If you don't want to use your sewing machine, all of it can be done by hand. Cool. Back. Okay, well, I've got another little blooper, and I'll talk about them. But what I've decided to do here is to do like some hand stitching here as kind of a zip stop, so that the zipper won't go beyond that when it's open. The reason being is that it's a metal zip and my machine didn't like it much. And so when I come to actually stitching this whole thing, I'm going to be stitching this from here to here by hand. But first I'm putting this zip stop here. So all I've done is I've got my normal thread, I've folded it in half so that it's a bit stronger. And right at the base of that, where that zip meets the zipper pull, I'm just going to put a couple of extra stitches in. So I'm just going in and out, under the zip, over the zip, just to make what I would call a zip stop. Because this is a zip that we've cut to size, there's nothing stopping it from continuing to open up, and I don't want that to happen. As I've said, this is a gift for a friend, and don't want it falling apart the first time she uses it. So I've just done, 3 stitches just to give it that thing that will stop the zip going any further than that. Tie it off. Cool. Couple of bloopers on this one. Look, this isn't my pattern. I'll have explained that before. It's, you know, I researched it, found a pattern, lots of patterns on YouTube. You can find them in all sorts of channels. Just put in box pouch. And the other thing that I've done is I've trimmed, I did it on the other side, but just with your maybe paper scissors. I've opened it there just like that because it's just easier to cut through, not so many layers. But yeah, it's the metal, and you don't want to be doing this with your good scissors, and that's why I've done that zipper stop, so that I can trim back that bit of bulk. And it's because it's a metal zip. It's quite a bulky zip. Nylon zips are no problem to put through the machine. Cool. All right, so that middle seam in line with the middle of the zip, I'm going to peg it there, a couple of clips there, keep it in place. And the same thing's going to happen with the lining. So you can re-peg once you've re-clip once you've got everything in line with itself. And do the same thing with this one. Sort of where that zip is, the middle of this seam. Give it a clip. Clip it here. Got any more clips in the pin tin? I think I do. And the same again here. Clip it here. Now, you could press it at this point and make sure that everything is sitting nice and flat. Okay. I might do that. And, yep. Because this is when we're going to mark those silly corners. Cool. All right. I'll give it a quick little press and use that same nice little square ruler. I'm still here. I'm just ironing, but I'm still here. I feel like I've stopped and started you so many times, you'll be sick of me now. Okay, just gave it a quick press. All right, so back again. So because now we've got a fold, that only needs to be 2 1/4 inches that way, but this way needs to be 2 1/2 because we're going to have some seam allowance in here. Do I need to move you over a bit? And do that same thing. So instead of where I originally thought, we're doing it somewhere different, which defies what I tried to do by having, okay, so 2 1/2 inches the long way. That's this measurement here, 2 1/2 inches, 2 1/4 inches from this to here. And put that mark in again. Cool. All right, I'm going to keep doing that, and then I'll come back to you and just check that everything's sitting nice and flush. All right, I'll be back in a second. And now we're going to cut those corners out. So what I'm going to do is I've marked the lining, just using one of those pens on the wadding, not quite as user-friendly, and then follow that same line, cut those corners out. Having done it by machine, I'm less likely to undermine any stitching, so that might be the tricky part. with doing it by hand. As far as your as your stitching goes, you might need to add a few extra stitches. Doesn't want to cut through that. There. Cool. All right, you could probably do it all in one hit. Because these will be stitched separately once we've stitched over that zip. So those two are done. The next two, and yeah, like I said, if you've hand stitched all your pieces on to your front cover, you may find that you need to go back and add a few more stitches just to help keep it. You know, stop it from fraying away. Goodness, can't get that last bit. There we go. Obviously a bit of extra fabric there. You can do it all in one piece of fabric. You don't need to do all of the patching that I've done, and that would stop any of those problems happening. And then you could embellish it only. Cool. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch down here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop when I get to the zip, and I'm going to hand stitch that little bit and then re-stitch here on the machine. So that's my plan of attack, and I'll come back when I've got to that point. Okay, so what I've done is I've stitched these here. I stopped when I got to the zip. On this one I've put a couple of hand stitches in just to make sure that it's sealed, and it is. When I turn it in here, you can see that it's well caught in and it's not going to go anywhere. All right, and it's nice and neat. I did bend the needle. Well, you know, my machine didn't not like this zip at all. It's funny, isn't it? I've sewn over metal zips before without any problem. But this metal zip, for some funny reason, it was not in the slightest bit happy. So what I've done is I've opened the zip. Hopefully you can see that. And I'm going to push the needle through between the teeth of the zip, so that I just make sure that's going to be a stress point, you know, where the zip goes in and out, up and down, open and closed. That will be a stress point for the whole bag. So I'm just coming up and down. So what I did was I stitched, stopped, stitched. And so now all I'm doing, it's barely a ½ inch just over those zipper teeth, so that I didn't break the machine needle, but I'm nearly breaking this needle. Yeah, use a strong needle. That's my advice. All right, cool. I think that's fine. It was barely a ½ inch, like it was literally the width of the teeth, that I just didn't put that sort of level of pressure on my sewing machine. And, you know, we've hand stitched those zipper stops in, so everything should be good. Cool. All right, so ready for the magic. All right, so we're going to turn the lining in first. You know, do a bit of backwards and forwards stitching. so you're not putting pressure on the end of those seams. Turn the whole thing in through one of those corners. The zip makes it a bit tricky because it, you know, as I said, it's a metal zip, so it's not so bendy as a nylon zip is. Good, and that's that. And now we'll turn the inside, the outside in as well. There we go, done. Okay, so the next bit is just concealing the seams. So it's what's called a French zip, the French seam. So, you know, that's good. It's fine. It's gonna hold. It's not gonna be a problem. Let's get over the zip. All right, these are all gonna be done the same way. So the lining needs to be in line with the front and folded in half. So these are your pressure points. If you've hand stitched it, you might need to redo some of that or put an extra stitch in it, but we are going to stitch over it. So if it'll hold till then, that'll be great. So I just want to make sure that the lining and the front all match up together nice and neatly. We're going to do a very small hem here, seam, and then we're going to turn it inside out and we're going to re-stitch it. So it's like a French seam, which just means it's a seam enclosed by a seam. And that's all. Again, can be done by hand. No reason why it can't be. Okay. I'm just choosing to do mine by machine because this has taken me, you know, a couple of hours. It's not a 5-minute job. Had I done it all by hand, maybe, you know, a day and a bit probably, but not probably much longer than that. I don't know where all my little clips are. Cool. All right, so all of these are going to be together. So that square folded in half, so you've got the points and the seams in the middle. I've pressed, you know, that seam, those seams flat so that they sit nicely. They're not going to cause too much bulk. No more clips. All right, I'm going to go and stitch all 4 of those the same way. And then I'm going to turn it inside out and stitch it on that side. But I'll come and let you know what I'm doing. Oh, I'll turn you off first. And I'm nearly done. Okay, so what I did was on the right side, I sewed those corners together, you know, flattened the square, sort of like, you know, that. Flattened it, stitched it on the right side. If I thought there was any, you know, daggy bits or extra threads, cut those off and then turned it inside to the inside and then re-stitched it across, making sure that I caught in what I'd previously sewn. Okay, so that's it. We're about done. I'm going to finish it here. You know, a few threads here and there. You can just trim those off. The corners will sit nice and neat like that. That one will be when I've sewn it. and you'll see at the end, and then the zip goes over the top from one side to another. Can I lift you up and show you a bit better? Let's try that. Okay, it's a nice little box shape once you've pulled out all your corners and your bits and pieces. You've got a nice neat little box shape. However you want to embellish it, I'm going to add my bit of embroidery. That's done a disappearing act on here somewhere in amongst everything. I'm going to hand stitch that on there, and you'll see the finished product before you see this. Okay, and that's the lining, all nice and neat. Don't have to do anything more in there. That's all done. Cool. You know, a little fiddly around getting that zip in, but not too much technical sort of stuff. I did dip this in tea dye. I know I had a discussion about that and went, I wasn't happy, but I dipped it in a bit of tea and I was a bit happier with the end result. Cool. All right. I hope you've enjoyed this little project. I've had fun doing it. I hope my friend likes it. I think it's a great serviceable thing. Could be a, you know, cosmetic bag, but it could be nice for your bits of stitching and things as well. And I've used one of those zips that are you buy by the meter and add your own zip pull on. And I'm happy with that too. Cool. All right. Take care. Bye.